Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kelly Pajali with Carson-Dellosa Publishing. Thanks for joining us today on our webinar around Summer Matters and Preventing Summer Learning Loss. Today, what we're really looking to do is to raise awareness on the importance of summer learning loss, identify some of the consequences around summer learning loss, and then share some resources with you on how you can help prevent summer learning loss. So we have a variety of audience members with us today. We have teachers, we have parents, and we even have owners of teacher supply stores and bookstores. So we hope to be able to provide information that will help all of you today. Before we get into our content, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. Just so everyone knows, you are on mute. So any background noise that's going on in your environment, it's not going to disrupt anything that we're doing on our end. Any questions that come to mind as we go through the information that we're sharing, there is a chat button at the bottom of your screen. So just go ahead and type your question into that chat box, and then we'll monitor those questions as we go throughout the webinar today. The webinar is expected to last about an hour. And then we also decided to do something fun today. We're going to throw a contest into today's webinar. So part of building awareness and creating a community for people to share their thoughts and so forth around summer learning loss, we wanted to give you guys the opportunity to post an idea or a thought around something that you're going to do this summer to prevent summer learning loss. So we would encourage you to go to the Facebook page or Instagram page and make a comment around what you would want to do this summer to prevent summer learning loss. And what we'll plan on doing is looking at all those comments early next week and drawing a winner to win a set of one of our best-selling summer workbook series. Be sure to tag your post with the hashtag summer learning loss, so that we know which ones are participating in the contest. I'll recap this again at the end of the webinar. And lastly, we are recording the webinar, so anyone who may have to drop off early or wants to revisit the information at a later time, you will be able to do that. So let's go ahead and dive in. We are very excited to have two expert panelists with us today. We have first Nathan Hemmelgarn from Carson-Dellosa Publishing. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Carson-Dellosa Publishing, we're a children's supplemental educational company, and we really pride ourselves on creating educational materials that are created for teachers and parents. It helps the teachers in the classroom connect with the parents and their learning moments at home. So Nathan is our Senior Editorial Director who has been in the publishing industry for 15 years. Do you want to wave, Nathan? I'm sure they know which one you are, but he's been in the publishing industry for 15 years. He's worked on hundreds of products for teachers and for parents, including two of our best-selling series, Spectrum and Summer Bridge Activities. Our second panelist is Matthew Boulay from the National Summer Learning Association. The National Summer Learning Association is a nonprofit organization focused on closing the achievement gap by increasing the summer learning opportunities for all youth. So Matthew is the founder and interim CEO of NSLA. And really quick, I just wanted to mention that we at Carson-Dellosa are really excited to be working with NSLA this summer on a variety of different activities and events. I think as we go through the information today, you're going to see that we at Carson and Matthew and his team at NSLA both have a really strong passion around building awareness for summer learning loss. And essentially at the core of all this, it's helping children be successful with their education. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start with Matthew. Matthew, we'll start with you. First, why don't you give us a little more background on the National Summer Learning Association? And then second, you have called summer learning loss an epidemic. If you could expand your thoughts around that statement for our audience.
Well, sure. Good afternoon. And I want to begin by thanking Carson-Dellosa. This is a terrific partnership. We're very excited by the prospects, possibilities here. NSLA is based in Baltimore. We're a national nonprofit organization. Next year, we'll celebrate our 25th anniversary. So we started in the summer of 1993, a very small program at a high school in Baltimore that was really struggling academically. And what we've essentially focused on for the last 25 years is really this notion of promoting awareness around summer learning loss, supporting high quality summer learning programs, and developing policies at the city and community level, as well as the state level, and of course at the federal level to support summer learning. We've come, we think, a long way as a field. We think there's still a long way to go. And we can talk about that a little bit more. Clearly we know that summer learning loss is a problem for many children, particularly our most vulnerable children. And equally clear is the fact that summer learning programs and activities not only curb losses over the summer, but promote gains and more broadly engage children in many new and interesting ways. With respect to the notion that summer learning loss is an epidemic, I think that our most vulnerable children experience losses, academic losses, not only one summer, but summer after summer after summer. And that cumulative impact is really what we're concerned about with respect to the long-term negative effect around learning losses. Again, there are, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about this, many interventions, programs, both formal and informal, but many wonderful ways that have developed over the last 15, 20 years, and even before that, to engage children. And so we're excited about the future, but always want to, particularly with policymakers, sort of highlight the research and the challenges that we know young people experience during the summers.
All very good points, Matthew. I think it's, based on that information, it's hard to argue that summer learning loss isn't an epidemic. So as we move on to this next slide, I think there's some very interesting information from studies and research that have been done dating all the way back to the early 1900s. And it's so interesting that summer learning loss does have consequences for children later in life. I think all the more reason for us to push this awareness as much as we can to make sure people are aware of it and we start educating our children earlier over the summer. I wanted to touch on the second point here. You have a little bit more. Equity is a massive issue in public education across the country. We know that. And the summer learning slide is a concern for not only the parents and teachers and store owners on this call today, but from a national perspective. It's a serious issue when kids lose access to learning for potentially up to 3 months over the summer. So what kind of support does the National Summer Learning Association provide to help with those equity issues?
Yeah, good question. And I think that we think about our work on a couple of different levels. Certainly in a national level, what we're trying to do is raise awareness. And sometimes things are so familiar to us, we sort of lose focus on them. And I think that might be the case with summer learning loss. All of us have grown up, for the most part, on a 9-month school year. And many of us have sort of wonderful memories, and certainly this myth of an idyllic summer vacation. Of course, the reality for many children is a much tougher summer. Sometimes a summer of isolation, sometimes a summer of hunger, and certainly a time where folks aren't always engaged with learning or fun activities. And so at the national level, what we're trying to do is raise awareness, keep people thinking about summer as an important component of a child's education and learning. At the programmatic level, we work with programs around the country to develop best practices and to scale up, both in terms of the number of students they serve and the continuity of serving students summer after summer after summer when possible. Sustainability is a challenge. Many programs, are dependent on funding streams that are not long-term and dedicated. And so we recognize as a policy matter, that's a real challenge. With respect to programs, we have an Excellence Award program that we'll talk about a little bit more towards the end of the presentation, but really an opportunity for folks to apply for an award, and in the process of applying, get some feedback from us and really work to develop the quality of their programming. At the very sort of local level, we're working with parents and libraries, schools to promote not only formal programs but informal programs. And let me just spend a minute on that distinction. We think of formal programs as the 5, 6, 7 week programs that are enrollment based, the YMCAs, the Boys and Girls Clubs, certainly school districts. These have for a long time been what most of us think about when we think about summer learning. And our goal is to encourage, and support these programs. At the same time, on a parallel track, we're supporting and advocating informal learning activities as well. So these take a variety of different shapes, beginning with, reading at home and practicing workbooks at home, going online, in constructive and engaging ways with free online programs, or keeping school libraries open for the summer. Librarians, we often say, have been the first and longest champions of summer learning. So keeping school libraries open, engaging folks in the library reading challenges in their communities. Online learning, as I mentioned, is oftentimes free and can be, it isn't always, but it can be of very high quality. So helping parents and families sort of fill the gaps in programmatic activities by engaging in some of the informal learning at home.
Great. I think those are great examples, Matthew. And I think that, a lot of times that we forget that learning truly can be everywhere. We just have to keep it top of mind. And I think one of the things that's kind of fun, especially over the summer, if a family's at a museum or at the zoo or something like that, and a child asks a question to a parent and the parent doesn't know the answer, I think that makes it even more fun, because it becomes then a family learning moment together. And I think it's always interesting for the kids to see that their parents are learning things just like they are. So those are good examples of those types of programs. So Matthew, we're going to circle back with you in just a little bit, and I just wanted to next transition to some statistics that Carson-Dellosa has collected. This is information that we like to share with our parents and teachers and our store owners to help them help us continue to build awareness around summer learning loss. I think some of these numbers are pretty staggering, but it gives us the drive, and I think it confirms the necessity that we need to continue to talk about this issue. So if you look in the upper left-hand corner, from a teacher perspective, you'll see that based on our research, 91% of teachers say students appear to forget or lose skills or knowledge learned during the previous school year. And then 88% of that 91% of teachers, they spend upwards of 4 weeks or more at the beginning of the school year reteaching skills that students should have already learned. So when you think about that, I mean, it just becomes very obvious, I think, that we really must continue to learn over the summer. I think about from a teacher perspective, what kind of strain that could really put on them and the kids in their classroom at the beginning of the year, and then essentially delay all the other things that they need to be educating their students on throughout the year. And then essentially you're playing catch up. And then if you look to the right side of this graphic, from a parent perspective, you'll see that 98% of parents agree that if they knew their children were going to experience summer learning loss, they would try to prevent it. So I think that my takeaway from that is really that's a matter of us being proactive. It's a matter of continuing to build this awareness so that parents do know about it. And as their children are young and they continue to learn over the summers, if they know about this, that's something that we can really, truly help prevent. And then the last statistic I wanted to mention was that 92% of parents agree that if children maintain some form of learning during the summer, they will be more successful in the long run. So knowing parents feel this way, it feels like it gives us permission to go ahead and share resources and solutions on how to prevent summer learning loss. So based on the information that Matthew had shared already, and we know that summer learning loss is an issue, it's an epidemic. We know that teachers and parents want to help prevent it. So then our job, the next key critical piece of this is that we need to provide them some resources and solutions to help prevent it. So with that, I'm going to transition over to Nathan Hemmelgarn to talk about a real fun and engaging solution that he and his team have developed at Carson-Dellosa. Nathan?
Thanks, Kelly, and thanks everyone for joining the webinar. I'd like to spend the next few minutes just talking about some of the features and benefits of our Summer Bridge Activities series and how that helps with some of the things that Matthew spoke about earlier with preventing summer learning loss. Our Summer Bridge Activities series is 9 titles, which covers the summer between pre-K and K, all the way up to the summer between 7th and 8th grade. Each title is 160 pages, plus includes cutout flashcards. There are stickers that help with goal setting and keeping track of what the children have done over the summer for pre-K through 5. Each title is also cross-curricular, so it covers English language arts, math, science, and social studies, as well as helping develop the whole child with physical fitness activities, character development, healthy eating, and other activities like that. Each title finally also includes a proposed or a possible summer reading list that gives children an opportunity to look at both fiction and nonfiction titles and things that may interest them. The great thing about this is every activity only takes 10 to 15 minutes each day, so it doesn't have to feel like homework, and there are multiple ways of working this into your regular day and your regular summer activities as well. So the first thing I wanted to point out in each title is the summer reading list. As I said earlier, each title includes fiction and nonfiction titles. It is not looking to be all-encompassing. Really what we're trying to do is give parents that opportunity to say, my child is interested in something, but I'm not quite sure what's age appropriate or grade or reading level appropriate for them. So we've done just a high level look at possible titles that they may be interested in. I think the other thing that's important when you look at that, and we recommend different amounts of time for each grade level of how long they should read each day. But I think what's important is it doesn't have to just be the student reading by themselves. This and all summer learning should really be a family event. Parents or caretakers or brothers or sisters can read to each other. They can spend time reading other things besides just stories. But really the important thing is to kind of grow and nurture that love of reading and that love of learning, which then will carry that child throughout the summer and then into the next school year. The great thing about this as well is you can pair this with, as Matthew had mentioned earlier, library or retail summer reading challenges, and those can tie in really well and give your student or your child a reason to be really excited about reading, so they can go get that bookmark or that coupon to a local store or something along those lines. So there's multiple ways of working that all in together. The next thing with our series is there are 3 sections in each title. At the beginning of each section is a goal setting section, a word list, and then a personal and physical fitness idea. Each section kind of is based on a traditional 1 month of the summer, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But what we really ask the students to do, as a family or with friends or even just with themselves, is to create some monthly goals. What would they like to learn? What would they like to do? And then keep track of those and keep going back to see how did they stack up against the goals that they had set for themselves at the beginning of the month. And it can be as easy as, I want to finish this story, or I want to go outside and play for a half an hour at the very least every day of the week. And then just kind of keep track of that. And then there's also a word list, which just brings in some of the words that students may or may not know at that particular point, but we're going to be touching on throughout that section. And then finally, each section has either physical and personal fitness being flexibility. So flexibility of physically as well as flexibility of character. So it really helps drive home that whole learning and to create, children to realize and understand things about themselves and about their friends and interacting with family members and just kind of working them through kind of just the growing up portion of life as well. So as I mentioned earlier, each title is based off of 3 sections. Each section, or section 1, is 100% review of the year they just came out of. So there's nothing, they should be all familiar with the activities that are in there. Section 2 is about 75% review, and 25% is an introduction into skills that they'll be learning in the upcoming grade. And then section 3 is about 50% review, 50% of the upcoming grade. But when I say 25% in the next grade and 50% in the next grade, we're not talking about things that they need to know at the end of the year. These are really just that small next step of what they're going to be learning early in the year that they've already built that foundation of. This does 2 great things. One, it keeps that student to start feeling like they're learning and growing as it goes over the summer, and they have that challenge of, I've already done this. I already know my letter recognition. Well, now I'm going to start working on something else that might be a little bit more challenging. So they feel that personal growth there, as well as it really helps. And I know all the parents out there know, and teachers, like right at the beginning of the year, there's so many school jitters and they're worried about, I'm not going to understand this, or this might be tough. So it really introduces that to the students so they can feel more comfortable when they get into the classroom, and also helps then the teachers with that 4-week review period at the beginning of the year, and really kind of addresses some of that as well. So in each section, there are 20 days worth of activities and a handful of bonus activities at the end of each section. So as you can see, sometimes there's either 1 or 2 activities on a page or on a day. Each day, we don't say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It really is just based on working it within your schedule. And then there's also throughout, there's either factoids, which just gives some more information about certain interesting things that students might like to learn about. A fitness flash, where maybe go run outside and run around the house once, or do 10 jumping jacks or something along those lines. And then also a character check that would involve thinking about a way that you could share something with a family member or a friend that day, and really just help with the character development at that point.
Hey, Nathan, I want to interject here quickly. So I think you provided a great example and explanation of summer bridge activities, and I think that this falls into that informal learning program that Matthew mentioned earlier. But this seems like a lot for summer. I mean, really, can a child get through all of this over the summer?
Well, sure. Yeah, I think that's a great question. And really what we've done as we develop this series is really trying to keep all of that full day worth of workbook time up to no longer than 15 minutes. We're not trying to make it like homework. We don't want it to be arduous. Again, we don't tie it into particular days. There's 20 days in each month where there are activities that scope through that month. If you can do it Monday, Tuesday, and then you need to, take Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, there's really no harm in that. It's really just trying to keep the student engaged in their learning process throughout the year. The bonus activities at the end, one are just that, they're bonus, but they're also fun. They're more hands-on. It could be a science experiment. It could be working with maps. And then also there's a lot of opportunities just to integrate learning in with your normal day-to-day. Say you were going on a trip to visit a friend. You could involve the child in looking at a map and seeing how far it takes to get there. Are there alternate routes? Which one would take longer than another? Really just kind of talking about and bringing your student and your child into these different learning opportunities is a great way of making it not feel like work. And really just kind of keeping that learning go all the way through. And the goal setting helps as well. One of the goals could be, I'm going to finish, all of section 1 in these, in this month. And at the end, we're going to have a pizza night, or we're going to have a game night, or something along those lines. So, we try not to make it too overwhelming, and we don't want it to feel like school homework, but, we want to make sure that those students are geared towards remembering what they've learned in the year previous and gearing up for the year they're about to get into.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then finally, every title both includes math and language arts flashcards in the back that come out. And then finally, a full answer key for parents and students, especially as the skills start getting tougher. It's nice to be able to look back and confirm that everything is where it needs to be. So.
Okay. Nathan, I noticed on the front covers there's a seal that says that the products are correlated to state standards.
Yep.
Where exactly would I be able to find that that particular product or that book or those skills in there support my particular state?
Sure. So we offer 2 different things. At the beginning of each title, there's a skill matrix that just ties in. If you're looking for addition or a writing activity, it ties into it'll show you which days cover those particular activities. But if you go to our website, Carson-Dellosa.com, go to that particular item, there's a correlations tab where you can pull up that book. You can pull up how it aligns to your state standards, Canadian provincial provincial standards, regardless of what standards you have in that particular state or province. So it's really great. And if things were to change, all of that will shift around as well. So it is up to date as all the standards are.
Okay. All right, good to know. I was going to pause here and check with Kristen. Have any questions come through that we can address?
We've had 2 questions come in so far. The first one is, when students are asked to read over the summer, does that research show that there must be an adult follow-up on what they are reading to prevent the summer slide?
That's a great question. And broadly speaking, when parents ask us about summer learning or summer learning activities, one of the things we say is to continue the good habits that you've developed over the school year into the summer. And so part of the answer to that question is, about the age and independence of the student. If they're reading during the school year independently, we can expect them to continue to do that during the summer. If on the other hand, they're reading with a parent during the school year, that's always helpful during the summer. One more quick point from the research, which is very clear. There are a number of what we call book distribution programs where folks are really just trying to get books in the hands of kids who have access to those books. So they maybe not have books in their home or have easy access to a library. The book distribution programs have been found to be much more effective when a parent or an adult is reading with the child.
Thank you, Matthew. Is there another question, Kristen?
Yeah, we had a few more. The second one was, how much weight does having a student choose what they're going to read have in preventing the summer slide for beginning readers, so students in kindergarten and first grade?
I always say that I wouldn't want my wife, as much as I love her, to choose the books that I read. And so I think, having the reader select books that interest him or her is probably the most important starting point. As Nathan said, summer reading shouldn't feel like summer homework. And if we're assigning books to kids, that's a not as fun way as letting kids select their own books. And in fact, summer's really a time when the constraints that we have during the school year are not present. So there is no expectation that you read book A or complete, a certain scope and sequence in a textbook. It's really about engaging kids where they are. So it's a great time to help them find the books and the subjects that interest them.
And our final question was, one of the viewers was wondering if we could talk a little bit about how to prevent summer slide in regards to math specifically.
So, I think it's a lot about what we kind of discussed earlier, in the same way that, both you need to review what's happened in the past working into the next year, but I think it's involving the family and finding everyday activities that you can discuss the math that surrounds that, such as, if you are working on baking cupcakes or making dinner and discussing, how many plates do we need? How many, if we have extra people coming, how many do we have all in total? And as you age that up, maybe it's talking about fractions and measurements, or if you're going on a trip and measuring how long it's going to take, or the amount of miles that they're going to travel. In addition to that, you could have a student as they get older and say, if they have they get an allowance based on chores that they do or something along those lines. If they want to earn up to save up for something, how many weeks is it going to take? So I think it's really just kind of integrating that into your everyday activities and making it part of something, so it doesn't have to feel like school, sitting down and doing, those fraction worksheets all the time.
Those are good examples, Nathan. Any other questions right now, Kristen? Okay. All right. Well, next, let's transition back to Matthew. And I wanted to give you an opportunity, Matthew, to share a little bit more about the initiatives that the National Summer Learning Organization offers, and in particular, the National Summer Learning Day, which I know is a big initiative for you guys every year.
Yeah, so July 13th this year. Last year, we celebrated Summer Learning Day with about 1 million children in about 1,000 programs across the country. This year, we expect that number to double, so about 2 million children, 2,000 programs. It's an indication, I think, of demand for summer learning activities and programs, and enthusiasm for summer learning activities. So July 13th, at our website, summerlearning.org, you can get some materials, some information about Summer Learning Day. Folks can sign up if they work with or their children attend a summer program. Bunch of different ways to celebrate Summer Learning Day. Sometimes programs, give out ice cream to the kids and have a local mayor or celebrity come and read with them. I was at a Summer Learning Day block party last year at a children's museum. So there are a bunch of different ways to celebrate. Quickly, I'll just touch on again our summer learning, our excellence in summer learning awards. There's a cash prize for winners. So if you work with a program, there's a real incentive to apply. Every year we have 2, 3, 4 winners, but beyond the excellence that the winners demonstrate, what I want to emphasize is that the application process we've structured in a way to provide feedback and to really help programs, achieve best practice. So many of our winners were applicants in previous years. We gave them some feedback. They tinkered and refined their model, applied again, or sometimes a third time, and won. So we hope it's a real way to build capacity and build excellence over time. And then finally, our conference is in October. We'll be in Phoenix this year. Last year we had about 1,000 people, our largest conference ever. And again, you can find some info on that at our website, summerlearning.org.
Matthew, more specifically to help our retailer, our bookstore owners and teacher supply store owners on the call, what kinds of things do they have the opportunity to do within their own local community from a business perspective, maybe particular around National Summer Learning Day?
Sure. A couple of things. One is we like to just celebrate, and usually that means like food and music and face painting when it comes to kids. So having an in-store celebration where summer learning books and activity books are sort of displayed prominently. Anyone can download from our website tip sheets for parents, tip sheets for teachers and principals as well. Those are in English and in Spanish, so they can have some materials to distribute. We also work with local media to promote programs. So, it's great to have sort of a celebration, an in-store celebration, and get a little bit of press in the local newspaper. From our perspective, that's a great way to just get more people aware of why summer learning matters.
Okay, very good. And I think these are some impressive information that you have from last year's program. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, Kristen, I wanted to go back to you to see if we had any other questions that have come through.
We do actually have one more question that just came in. One of our viewers is from Trinidad, and she's wondering how can she use this information for her international students who might have various cultural differences.
Matthew, you want to go or you want me first?
Go ahead. I'll take a break. Go ahead.
All right. So my computer's kind of locked up right now, so I can't take a look to see if there are if there's a crosswalk available between U.S. standards and the standards that are in Trinidad. But I'm sure there's something out there that could give you an idea of kind of how a particular third grade student in the U.S. is going to tie back into what's being taught in Trinidad. I think the other important thing here, especially when you have different cultures or just different students in general, is we need to remember that there's always an opportunity to differentiate. And as that student, where they are in that particular skill, we can, the activities that you do over the summer can really help them out, even if it is slightly different than, what ties in directly into the U.S. standards there. So I think, really just looking at the students, just trying to keep them engaged in reading and in math, and tying those activities into where they are is a great opportunity. But I would look online to see if there is a crosswalk between U.S. standards and the standards in Trinidad.
Yeah, and I would just add, it really sort of highlights the opportunity for summers to be a time when parents and teachers are crafting learning opportunities that are very specific to a particular child or a community. It's a time, as I said earlier, without some of the constraints of standards or pacing that schools have to work through. So to the extent that you have some flexibility and freedom in creating, learning opportunities, our materials are, of course, free and can be downloaded. You know, there's tons of stuff online that you can sort of pick and choose from.
Good, thank you. Any other questions, Kristen?
Those are all that came in so far.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to kind of recap some of the information that Nathan and Matthew have shared today. A lot of great information, as Matthew mentioned, on his website. So the National Summer Learning Association, if you're looking for more details around that, and then also National Summer Learning Day, which is July 13th this year. You can visit summerlearning.org. And anyone interested in getting more information or purchasing the Summer Bridge Activities Series, we would encourage you to visit your local teacher supply store or bookstore, or visit Carson-Dellosa.com. And then just to recap the contest that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we would encourage you all to go to your own Facebook page, your own Instagram page, or Carson-Dellosa's Facebook or Instagram page, and let us know what you plan to do this summer to prevent summer learning loss. And be sure to post it with the hashtag Summer Learning Loss, and we will collect all of those ideas and thoughts early next week and select a winner to receive a set of our Summer Bridge Activity Series that Nathan talked about earlier. Any other thoughts, Matthew, Nathan, on your end?
I think it's just important to remember to make summer fun. You know, really look at those everyday activities and the opportunities to kind of create learning around you, and just remember that it is everywhere, and you don't have to necessarily go seek it out.
And I would just add, thanks for spending the time to dig in a little bit, and please help share the message. Talk to folks in your community about summer learning. We have a social media campaign, hashtag Keep Kids Learning. But we think it's important, to talk to parents, teachers, educators, folks, your neighbors. Talk about this, tell them what you're doing, tell them why it matters, and help spread the word.
I ditto that, Matthew. Well, thank you so much, Nathan. We appreciate your time. Matthew, thank you so much, as always, for helping us spread this great, important word. And I thank everyone who was able to join us today. And you can look for the recording of this webinar coming out in the upcoming week or so. So thanks again, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.